Hey friends, good morning. I am in my kitchen slash workspace area. I'm not very organized, but I hope you won't judge me. So I wanted to talk about cooking today. I was doing a little bit of work for the like a cooking challenge that me and some friends are working on. I was writing my bio and I was thinking about there's so many people I know who don't know how to cook, who don't like know the basics or anything like that. And I guess I just relate to that because I was always the kind of person who hated cooking. It wasn't until my like early to mid 20s where I eventually kind of hit a point where I wanted to learn how to cook. But I wasn't one of those natural cooker people. So my family, like I grew up with, my mom and dad were busy working people and, we had 20-minute meals on the table that usually came from a box or from takeout. And that's nothing against my family. It was more speaking to like they were business people and it was the 90s. And in the early 90s, I think like all of my friends had the same diet, which was a diet that was consisting of things from boxes or casseroles quickly whipped together, things like that. So my upbringing, I wasn't like exposed to a lot of variety or like a particular love of cooking because my parents, they were just more pragmatic about it. I think like the first time I ate a sweet potato or like a zucchini or anything like that, I was in my 20s already. So I didn't grow up with this like, this magical cooking paradise or anything like that. So, like, I was the kind of person, like, when I was feeding myself, when I moved out of my house when I was 18 and I went off on my own, it's like, I don't even know how I survived. I don't know how I fed myself. It was like ramen, grilled cheese sandwiches, or any other kind of sandwich, really. I don't think I really diverted much beyond that. It was pretty basic stuff. I remember when I learned how to make a stir fry, it was like a really big deal. It seemed like, whoa, a stir fry, which is a super easy thing to do, but that was like, in my early 20s, that was like a wild thing that I was able to cook. Or like the time my friend, I came over and she cooked me a little bowl of sauteed Swiss chard with garlic and balsamic vinegar. And I'm like, what is this food? I've never eaten a green thing like this before. So in 2009, I was a vegetarian and I just got this whim. I was like, you know what? Humans should know how to feed themselves. I am going to learn how to feed myself and be one of those humans, even though I didn't even know where to start or what to do. I will admit that this was inspired by wanting to impress a boy. I guess I just went all Martha Stewart or something. I have no idea where that instinct came from, but it was there. That was the true motivation. So I had a couple cookbooks at the time, and I whipped them out just for fun. I don't know. So this is one of the first cookbooks I ever purchased. So probably back in 2009. Vegan with a Vengeance. I actually met Isa Chandra Moskowitz. She's really cool. She has a lot of cookbooks, but you can see it's like yellow and decrepit. Like this is a cookbook that has been through hard times. I had a couple like this. There's another one on my shelf that I had since the very, very beginning. This is like by a Canadian cookbook author. She lives in BC. She's super cool. Also, so I had these books basically as like my starter books. Vegan food blogs and vegetarian food blogs and stuff existed at the time, but they weren't super, super, all over the place the way they were now. And I'm a big fan of having hard copies of cookbooks. But what I would do, this is how I learned. I picked 5 recipes, whatever felt doable. I would write down what recipes I was going to cook that week, and I wrote down exactly what ingredients I'd need. I would do one grocery trip for the week to shop for everything involved in those 5 recipes, and then I would follow to the letter I would just follow the recipe. Now, since I had no cooking intuition whatsoever when I started, anytime I came across something, I'm trying to think of an example of when I followed things to the letter and I had no idea what I was doing. For example, there's a typo in this book in one of the recipes that says like apple cider. So I was making, I think it must have been like tempeh bacon or something like that. And I was like, oh, how weird that I need 3 tablespoons of apple cider, but I guess I'll take that. So I bought like packets of apple cider mix and like mixed it up and it was super sweet. And I was like, this is a weird flavor. I'm not sure what they were going for. But I realized, with a little bit of cooking knowledge behind me, oh, apple cider vinegar. That is a common ingredient. I use it all the time. So I made a lot of bad meals, but fortunately very few meals that I had to actually throw away. There were a few, but for the most part it was like I would make meals that were like, okay, this is edible. Edible is a start, right? But after about a year of doing this, of like religiously, like every week I would make 4 or 5 recipes. I got better. After like a year, I felt actually like pretty competent, to the extent where I think partway through that first year, I ended up starting a food blog. It originally started as me just taking pictures of food and having my own little private journal where I would take notes about cooking and anyone learning any skill. So I had some experience with picking up new skills, and this is just a like an idea that I transferred over. The idea that you document whatever you're learning, because that's just a like a really great way to keep track of your progress, your wins, your fails. It's just a way to be a lot more aware of what you're doing. So I originally had my little journal documentation thing. That worked really well, and I started having a lot of fun with it once I started getting just a little bit better. So I was like, blogs are a thing. Why not just do like a food blog just for fun? So I started a food blog where I continued to publicly document the things that I was cooking. Over the next few years, I got better at cooking, to the extent where I ended up getting to be like a recipe tester for a published cookbook. Actually, I have that one right here too. So Tamer Mason has a book called The Caribbean Vegan. Really, really fun to test for a cookbook that's not like American or Canadian or something in style, because it meant that I was able to try like a whole bunch of different things. Like I cooked with fresh coconut. I did some things like cooking with cassava or white sweet potato, or things that I'd never come across before. I made like donuts and stuff. So that got me out of my comfort zone even further, not sticking to just like kind of what I knew, but branching out into other cultural cuisines and trying things I'd never even heard of before. So that's basically how I learned to cook. And from there, I ended up going to culinary school. I got like super into it enough that I went to culinary school. But the point is that like if you want to cook, it's like I feel like so many people I know think about wanting to cook, or like will watch a lot of cooking videos or things like that, but they don't actually do it, or they really resist the process of doing it. And like learning any new skill, there's going to be this period of time where things are like really slow. So what might take me 15 minutes to whip together, now that I've been cooking for all these years pretty regularly, it might take someone, if it's like your first try, it might take, I don't know, like an hour. So, and things like chopping, I'm really fast and efficient at chopping now, but I didn't used to be. So it's like, there is a learning curve. I didn't find cooking immediately really awesome or fun. It was just like, okay, this is a skill I'm building. I'm like going into this with the spirit of experimentation. I know I'm not going to be very good at it. That's my oven. I'm going to be throwing some eggplants in the oven soon at 10 in the morning, so don't judge me. I'm hungry. So that was basically like my process with learning how to cook. Very simple. Simple in concept, but requires some discipline and execution. This is something I've noticed with learning piano as well. Usually there's like an initial momentum, so you're really excited about something when you start. And I remember this with cooking too. I had like this probably like month or two where I was like super gung-ho. I was really into it. And then your initial enthusiasm kind of flags a little bit. You're like, wow, I suck at this and I don't feel like I'm getting better. But if you stick through that kind of like that lull, there ends up being another slope. For me, it was sort of around the six month to a year mark where I was like, okay, I've actually made like really real, tangible progress. If I had stopped all of my recipe, by the way, when I made plans to cook 5 recipes a week, it was 5 different recipes every week. So I didn't go back and repeat recipes. I thought that was like a really important part of the process, because I wanted to expose myself to a wide variety of cooking techniques. So if you just have like a few good cookbooks on your hand, I prefer cookbooks to blogs personally. Even though I used to blog, just because, I don't know, there's just something about like having a physical, like I like making notes and checking things off in my books. I also ended up, this is my ongoing pink binder, where every recipe that I make that I'm like, man, this is actually really great, I would totally make this again, I just write it in here, and then it's like a collection of favorites. So that's something I really like having anyway. But maybe another time I'll sit down with you guys and take you through some of my favorite cookbooks if you think that would be fun. But yeah, I mean, 4 to 5 recipes a week, and document the process, try new things, and just like commit to it with a grocery list. That's all it took for me. You could stop after a year of that and you'd be like pretty much set. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me in my kitchen. I'll catch you in the next video. Oh, there's my hand, really big. Sorry guys.